Chumley, a beloved star from Pawn Stars, left fans in disbelief when he collapsed in court upon hearing his sentence. This shocking event sent ripples through the Pawn Stars community and sparked widespread curiosity about the struggles Chumley has endured. In today's video, we'll revisit those intense moments in the courtroom and take a deeper look at how Chumley's life has evolved from his Pawn Stars days to where he is now. In this video, we'll dive deep into the events leading up to Chumley's punishment, uncovering the reasons behind it and the significant changes he's undergone throughout the years. Stay tuned as we unravel captivating stories, hidden mysteries, and the unique challenges Chumley has faced in his journey. You won't want to miss what's coming next. If you're intrigued, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on our upcoming videos. Austin Chumley Russell, the iconic star of Pawn Stars, has carved out a special place in the hearts of television fans. With his humor, down-to-earth nature, and one-of-a-kind personality, Chumley has captured the affection of millions worldwide for more than a decade. But after rising to fame as a fan favorite, his life took an unexpected twist when he encountered serious legal troubles, opening up a new and challenging chapter in his journey. During his time on Pawn Stars, Chumley became known not just for his witty lines and comedic antics, but also for his expertise as a seasoned collector. One standout moment was when he made a bold move by purchasing a professional pinball machine, leaving both his team and fans in awe. But beyond the clown persona in the shop, Chumley quietly established himself as a respected figure in the collectibles industry, earning the admiration of both his colleagues and viewers. Chumley's fame extends beyond television, as he's also made a name for himself with successful business ventures. With clothing lines, a candy brand, and live talk shows under his belt, Chumley has earned millions, much of which helped him navigate the unexpected legal battles that came his way. Yet, despite his significant success, personal struggles still managed to catch up with him, proving that even the brightest stars face their own challenges. As Pawn Stars became a global sensation, Chumley entered a new chapter in his career. Despite the fame and success, he struggled with an inner battle that remained largely unseen. Fame makes you think you're invincible, but in reality, I just wanted to find peace in life, Chumley admitted. Personal challenges, stress, and unforeseen legal issues pushed him into a harsh reality, one that no amount of success could have prepared him for. Recently, Chumley experienced the darkest moment of his life when he stood in the courtroom. The tension was palpable as the judge read the final verdict. Upon hearing the announcement, Chumley appeared overwhelmed, collapsing and sinking into deep thought. The scene left everyone in the courtroom stunned, and the atmosphere grew heavy with disbelief. This dramatic clash between a beloved star and the justice system, with shocking details never before revealed, will keep you on the edge of your seat. Despite enduring numerous challenges, Chumley has kept the love and support of his fans. His authenticity and unique personality have created a deep connection with his audience. Though he no longer appears on screen as often, Chumley remains an essential part of Pawn Stars, and his journey will forever be remembered as a powerful story of following one's passions, overcoming obstacles, and navigating life's toughest moments. Chumley, born Austin Russell, became a household name with his humor and approachable personality on Pawn Stars. As the show soared in popularity and Chumley rose to stardom, his life underwent a dramatic transformation. What started as a humble job at a pawn shop evolved into a life of luxury, with Chumley flaunting expensive sports cars, a lavish mansion, and an awe-inspiring collection of sneakers and jewelry. His extravagant shopping sprees and lively parties, frequently shared on social media, quickly amassed millions of views, highlighting the stark contrast between his humble beginnings and his now glamorous lifestyle. Chumley became famous not just for his comedic moments on Pawn Stars, but also for successfully building his personal brand. He opened a Chumlee candy store in Las Vegas and launched behind-the-scenes merchandise that fans embraced enthusiastically. However, fame brought its own set of challenges. The pressure to maintain a public image while balancing his personal life weighed heavily on him. As Chumley put it, "Fame makes you think you're invincible, but in reality, I just want to live a normal life." In March 2016, Chumley's life took a dramatic turn when police raided his Las Vegas home as part of an investigation into sexual assault allegations. What stunned the public, however, wasn't just the nature of the investigation. It was what authorities uncovered during the search. Among the findings were weapons and illegal substances, a revelation that quickly made headlines across social media. This discovery caused many to reassess their perception of the once beloved TV star. While Chumley always appeared cheerful and carefree on Pawn Stars, his real life told a very different story. The public was taken aback when a fan commented, "Chumley is always happy on TV, but in real life he's a totally different person." This stark contrast between his on-screen persona and off-screen reality left fans stunned, sparking widespread speculation about the future of both Chumley and the Pawn Stars show. After the search, prosecutors filed multiple felony charges against Chumley, including possession of firearms and drugs, charges with potentially severe consequences. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. Beyond the legal turmoil, these charges posed a serious threat to the public image Chumley had spent years carefully crafting. The case sent shockwaves through the fan community, leaving many questioning whether the TV star could overcome this massive challenge and rebuild his life. The events in Chumley's life have not only raised questions about his future, but also the future of Pawn Stars. This incident became a startling story, as a beloved TV star confronted significant legal and personal challenges. While Chumley still holds a special place in fans' hearts, whether he can overcome these obstacles and continue his career remains uncertain. Austin Chumley Russell, the beloved star of Pawn Stars, faced one of the darkest moments of his life as his career was put at risk. Known for his humor and lighthearted moments on television, Chumley now finds himself confronting serious allegations that could completely shatter the image he has spent years building. The situation involving Chumley unfolded when authorities searched his Las Vegas residence in March 2016 as part of a sexual assault probe. Yet it wasn't the investigation itself that grabbed public attention. It was what officers found inside: a collection of firearms, illegal substances, and related paraphernalia. The discovery quickly went viral on social media, prompting many to question the gap between Chumley's TV persona and his actual lifestyle. Chumley's story serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers and temptations of substance abuse, and how it can have unexpected consequences for those in the spotlight. What are your thoughts on this situation? Share your opinions in the comments. If you have a different take, feel free to let us know. Interested in hearing more about another story? Just ask. Chumley's image underwent a dramatic shift, causing a stir not only because of the legal allegations, but also due to the stark contrast between the lovable personality fans saw on Pawn Stars and his real-life behavior. The public was confronted with a hard truth. Chumley wasn't always the warm, approachable character they'd come to know on TV. Posts on social media, interviews, and widespread discussions about the case prompted many fans to rethink their perception of this once-beloved TV star. The prosecutor in the trial highlighted the gravity of the case by outlining the weapons and controlled substances discovered during the police search. Chumley faced accusations of possessing firearms and illegal drugs, which could present significant risks. Legal experts suggest that if convicted, he could face a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. While Chumley's lawyer argued that he had no prior criminal record and no intention to cause harm, the situation remains extremely serious. As the trial progressed, tensions mounted with the initiation of plea negotiations, putting not only Chumley's personal freedom at stake, but also his career. The back and forth between the lawyers was intense, with both sides carefully considering every possible outcome. Despite Chumley's long and successful career in entertainment, his public image faced the very real threat of being shattered if convicted. Chumley's career has been deeply linked to Pawn Stars, the reality TV show that drew millions of viewers. Known for his friendly demeanor and humor, he won the hearts of fans. However, the reality behind his public persona has led to a great deal of disappointment among his supporters. Personal and legal struggles have now pushed Chumley to a critical crossroads in both his life and career. This case is more than just a legal struggle. It serves as a stark reminder of how fragile public image can be, and how the truth behind the screen often remains hidden. Chumley has become a symbol of how quickly the personal lives and careers of TV stars can shift, showing that fame doesn't always shield them from the darker sides of their lives. The future of both Chumley and Pawn Stars remains up in the air, and the public is left waiting to see if he can rise above this challenge. On the last day of the trial, the courtroom was filled with people, with some fans holding signs in support of Chumley and others wearing Pawn Stars logo shirts. The atmosphere was charged, a mix of excitement and tension, reflecting the public's intense interest in the case. Judge Michael Davidson oversaw the sentencing, and as Chumley stood at the defendant's podium, bracing for the final verdict, the tension in the room was palpable. Every sound was amplified, from the rustling of papers by the court clerk to the quiet murmurs of the crowd. Chumley reached a plea agreement with the prosecution, pleading guilty to one firearms charge and a lesser offense related to controlled substances, while other charges were dropped. Judge Davidson carefully weighed the mitigating factors alongside the concerning behaviors outlined in the case file. Although Chumley acknowledged his guilt, the judge stressed the severity of possessing unregistered firearms and controlled substances, pointing out the significant danger they posed to the community. The judge sentenced Chumley to 3 years of probation with strict conditions, including intensive monitoring, counseling, regular drug testing, and 200 hours of community service. Additionally, the judge ruled that all items seized during the investigation would be permanently forfeited. What took the court by surprise, however, was the strict condition attached to Chumley's probation. Any violation of its terms would lead to an immediate 3-year prison sentence with no chance for a retrial. The judge delivered the sentence firmly, stating, "Mr. Russell, I am sentencing you to 3 years of strict probation. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration for 3 years." It was as if the sentence hit Chumley like a crushing blow, a devastating shock after months of turmoil and the ever-present threat of a long prison sentence. As the judge went on reading the terms, Chumley's emotions, long kept in check, suddenly overwhelmed him. Sweat began to form on his forehead, and his voice seemed to fade into the background, drowned by the whirlwind of thoughts racing through his mind. In an instant, Chumley stumbled and collapsed right there in the courtroom. His lawyer rushed to his side, attempting to calm him down, but it was already too late. The reality TV star, once known for his comedic flair, now lay motionless before the stunned audience. Security personnel moved in immediately, while the sound of his labored breathing filled the room. Medical staff were quickly called to the scene. One brought water, while another cleared the area to make space. Photographers snapped pictures of the tense moment, and soon images of Chumley unconscious in court made their way to headlines across the entertainment world. Lee, Chumley's longtime friend who once helped bring laughter to millions, now watches as his friend faces the serious fallout from his past actions. Chumley's life and career are at a critical turning point, with many uncertainties surrounding both his future and the future of Pawn Stars. This moment serves not only as a legal shock, but also as a harsh reminder of the divide between the public personas and private realities of reality TV stars. Austin Chumley Russell's legal troubles came to a head in court, where he faced serious charges and ultimately collapsed right in the midst of the proceedings. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the final verdict was read. After pleading guilty and being sentenced to 3 years of strict probation, Chumley completely broke down, collapsing in front of everyone, leaving the courtroom in stunned silence. The dramatic moment quickly made headlines across entertainment news. In the aftermath of the incident, both fans and colleagues were deeply concerned. Rick Harrison, Chumley's longtime friend and co-star, was seen visiting him in the days that followed. On social media, hashtags like #HatchumleyMan and #HaggaddenPawn quickly gained traction, sparking a wave of support for Chumley. 3 days later, still visibly shaken, Chumley appeared in a video statement recorded at his home. In the video, he candidly addressed the events and acknowledged his past mistakes, presenting himself as a man confronting his own flaws. "Facing the consequences of my actions is something that scares me deeply," Chumley confessed in the video. "I need to make better choices, and I know the doctor was right." These sincere admissions marked a pivotal moment in Chumley's public image. He was no longer the carefree, naive character viewers had seen on screen, but a man confronting his mistakes and striving for redemption. Chumley also acknowledged that fame and the pressures of being a public figure had clouded his judgment, leading him to make decisions that could ultimately cost him everything. Chumley also revealed that he is now focused on recovery and making better life choices. "The show has been my family for many years, and I hope to make them proud one day," he shared. While there has been no official word on his return to Pawn Stars, there are indications that the History Channel may be open to welcoming him back after his recovery. For now, Chumley is concentrating on meeting the court's conditions and working on legitimate projects. This shift marks not only a turning point in Chumley's career, but also a new chapter for him. His story has evolved into an inspiring reminder that while fame doesn't lead to mistakes, it's how we rise after falling that truly defines us. If Chumley returns, it will be the culmination of a journey driven by determination and honesty, with unwavering support from his fans. We've delved into the intense events surrounding Chumley and the court case, culminating in his collapse after hearing his sentence. This story has been not only shocking, but also a poignant reminder of the challenges stars face off-screen. Chumley has experienced significant changes, and his life, as it turns out, hasn't always been as easy as it may have seemed. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss any more inspiring stories. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the shocking story of Rick Harrison, the star of Pawn Stars. From being beloved to confessing his horrific crimes in court, let's see how he went from a TV star to a real-life killer. Rick Harrison, the Pawn Stars star, caused an uproar when he admitted to his criminal activities in court. From being a family man figure, he became a notorious criminal, completely changing the public's perception of him. If you're shocked by this truth, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay updated with the next shocking stories. Share your thoughts on Rick Harrison and these jaw-dropping revelations in the comments below. The real breakthroughs in the investigation came when agents focused on the basement of the store. The basement, which had long been off-limits to the public, was the center of human trafficking activities. It was in this hidden space where children were held captive, their lives and identities erased as they were trafficked through the criminal network. With dark, flickering lights and makeshift cells, the basement was a nightmare world that existed alongside the legitimate pawn shop above it. When the FBI uncovered the basement prison, it marked the beginning of an intense and larger-scale investigation. The investigative team immediately secured the area and rescued the trapped children. But as they conducted a thorough search of the basement, what they found went far beyond expectations. In addition to clear signs of human trafficking, they seized a trove of valuable documents, including financial records, communication details, and other materials that could help uncover the full scope of the criminal network behind it. The documents revealed direct involvement from officials and business owners in this trafficking operation. The deeper the FBI investigated, the more they realized that this wasn't just a small-scale crime. It was a global, sophisticated criminal organization with extensive ties. The investigation quickly expanded, forcing the FBI to collaborate closely with law enforcement agencies around the world. The international nature of the trafficking network stretched beyond U.S. borders, and the FBI worked closely with agencies in Mexico, Central America, and even Southeast Asia to track down the perpetrators. What the investigators uncovered was truly shocking. This was an organization that had been operating for years, smuggling children across borders and selling them to the highest bidders. The network wasn't limited to human trafficking. It was also involved in other illegal activities, such as selling stolen antiques, drugs, and weapons. As the investigation widened, the FBI's team focused heavily on the financial side of the operation. They traced the flow of money through a series of front companies, bank accounts, and foreign entities. The funds generated from the sale of antiques and trafficked children were funneled through complex financial channels, making it extremely difficult to trace the masterminds behind the operation. FBI forensic accountants worked tirelessly to follow the money trail, from Harrison's pawn shop to the broader trafficking network. One of the most shocking revelations was the role social media and online platforms played in the human trafficking operation. The network had built an underground web where buyers could trade children, often disguised as legal transactions. These websites operated on the dark web, making them difficult to trace and allowing the organization to function almost undetected. The FBI worked with cybercrime experts to dismantle this system, but the task was incredibly difficult. The criminals had used advanced encryption and numerous hiding techniques to protect their communications and transactions. As the investigation continued, the FBI began arresting key members of the human trafficking network. While these arrests were significant, it was clear that the organization was far from being dismantled. The true masterminds were still on the run, continuing to operate the network in the shadows. The pursuit of these leaders is ongoing, but the initial wave of arrests sent a strong message. This human trafficking network is not invincible, and it will ultimately be brought to justice. One of the most challenging aspects of the investigation was working with the victims, the children rescued from the basement of Harrison's pawn shop. These children had endured unimaginable horrors, and their psychological trauma was profound. The FBI worked closely with social service agencies, psychologists, and other specialists to ensure they received the care and support they needed. This was a lengthy and difficult process, as many of the children were so traumatized they couldn't trust anyone, even those who had rescued them. The FBI, along with anti-human trafficking organizations, began the process of psychological recovery and reintegration for the children, helping them rebuild their lives. The investigation into Rick Harrison's pawn shop and the global human trafficking network operating beneath it is one of the most complex and high-profile cases the FBI has ever handled. This case involved a criminal network that spanned the globe, connected to organized crime, corrupt officials, and powerful individuals. However, the FBI's work is far from over. The investigation continues to expand, and more arrests are expected in the near future. What the FBI has uncovered is a chilling reminder of the hidden dangers within our society. Criminal networks operating openly, waiting for opportunities to profit from the vulnerabilities and suffering of others. For the victims affected by this trafficking network, both the children who have been rescued and the families torn apart by the loss of loved ones, the FBI's work is a beacon of hope in the dark. But the road to justice remains long, and the full scale of these criminal activities has yet to be fully revealed. If you want to know more shocking and untold details, don't forget to hit like and subscribe now. Let's discuss in the comments what you think, and make sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss any exciting upcoming videos. The investigation into Rick Harrison's pawn shop is just the beginning, exposing only the tip of a global problem that has been quietly growing in the shadows for years. The efforts of the FBI to bring justice to the victims continue, and they know that their work is far from done. One thing is undeniable, though. The criminal organization used Rick Harrison's pawn shop as a cover, and authorities are determined to dismantle this network piece by piece. When news broke that the FBI had uncovered an underground prison in the basement of Rick Harrison's pawn shop, the public was left stunned and shocked. It was hard to believe that the man who had been a familiar face on the reality TV show Pawn Stars, a hit series on the History Channel for over a decade, could be involved in such a dark and horrific activity. Television viewers, who once trusted Rick Harrison as a genuine, hard-working businessman who built his career with charm and dedication, now had to face the bitter truth. The man they admired was accused of being connected to one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. The consequences of this discovery unfolded almost immediately and were intensely dramatic. For those who had once enjoyed Pawn Stars and held a fondness for Rick Harrison's humble, sincere image, it felt as though the entire world had been turned upside down. The fact that over 300 children had been held captive in the basement of his pawn shop some of them trafficked from Southeast Asia and Central America, was almost beyond comprehension. How could someone who once appeared so genuine and trustworthy on television be involved in such brutal acts? The trust between Harrison and his audience was shattered in the blink of an eye. In the hours and days following the exposure, news outlets worldwide scrambled to report on the story, each adding more shocking details. The media relentlessly covered the case, investigating Harrison's past, his financial transactions, and his connections to an international criminal network. For the first time in years, Harrison was no longer the friendly, reliable man on screen. He had become a figure of suspicion, his image permanently tarnished by the horrific accusations surrounding him. It wasn't just the media that reacted strongly, but the entire nation was in shock. People from all walks of life struggled to reconcile the vast difference between the image of Harrison on Pawn Stars and the man now accused of being at the center of a global human trafficking ring. Longtime fans of the show were heartbroken and deeply disappointed, unable to comprehend how someone they had watched hundreds of times on screen could be involved in something so vile. Social media exploded with reactions, ranging from astonishment and outrage to feelings of betrayal. The hashtag #NotMyPawnStar became a trend for several days as people voiced their shock. For some, this event served as a painful wake-up call, a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and those we once trusted or admired may not be who we thought they were. Many expressed feeling duped, as though Harrison had misled the public for years. This was especially hard to accept for longtime fans of the show. To them, figures like Rick Harrison, Corey Harrison, and Chumley had become household names. Their pawn shop in Las Vegas was almost an iconic cultural landmark. The thought that a place once known for buying and selling valuable items could simultaneously be the center of one of the most horrific human trafficking operations ever uncovered was almost impossible to process. As the investigation deepened, more details continued to emerge, fueling a growing sense of betrayal among the public. According to law enforcement sources, Harrison was accused of being involved in human trafficking for years, actively assisting in the transportation of children through his shop. While there was no direct evidence linking him to kidnappings, the evidence suggested that he played a significant role in covering up the crimes, as well as laundering money through his business operations. The fact that Harrison had continued to run a legitimate, successful pawn shop while quietly being involved in such a heinous plot made the truth all the more shocking. The public's reaction was not only one of anger and outrage, but also fear. How could something like this happen without anyone noticing? How could someone who was once trusted and portrayed as down-to-earth on television have hidden such a dark secret for so many years? Those questions repeated in the minds of many as they tried to make sense of the horrific reality. And then people realized that this wasn't just about the actions of one individual, it was part of a much larger issue: human trafficking, an insidious problem that operates in the shadows, often unnoticed by society. In the weeks following the story's exposure, public pressure on the authorities mounted. Many called for swift and decisive action. There were voices advocating for stricter regulations on pawn shops as people began to question whether the industry was becoming a haven for criminal activity. After the scandal, lawmakers began to pay more attention to this sector, proposing measures to impose stricter controls on businesses that deal in large amounts of cash and valuable goods. Some even suggested that pawn shops should be required to report all transactions to law enforcement agencies to prevent them from being used as a front for illegal activities. Meanwhile, Rick Harrison's legal team worked tirelessly to handle the crisis. He faced numerous serious charges, including money laundering, human trafficking, and complicity in the sale of stolen antiques. The severity of the charges could potentially result in him serving decades in prison if convicted. The legal process was slow, as investigators continued to gather evidence and build a case against him. The pressure on Harrison continued to grow, with each new revelation adding to the weight of the accusations hanging over him. In the eyes of the public, the biggest question remained. Could Rick Harrison redeem himself? Did he have a chance to rebuild his life? Or was his image permanently tarnished by the horrific crimes hidden beneath the basement of his pawn shop? In the early days after the case broke, it seemed almost impossible that Harrison could overcome this scandal. His reputation was irreparably damaged, and the public's trust was nearly shattered. However, as the investigation continued, some began to wonder whether Harrison was truly involved in the human trafficking operation, or if he had simply been a pawn in a much larger criminal scheme. Although evidence suggested that he played a role in facilitating the transport of trafficked children, many questions remained unanswered. Did Harrison truly understand the full extent of the trafficking ring? Or had he been unwittingly caught up in a plot that he didn't fully grasp? Was he a willing accomplice, or simply a businessman exploited as a front for the criminal network? As the legal process continued to unfold, one thing became clear. This case was far from over. The discovery of the underground prison beneath Harrison's pawn shop marked the beginning of a series of events that would continue to shake the world for years to come. The public's strong and unrelenting reaction was understandable, but ultimately, the law would decide whether Harrison would be held accountable for the crimes he was accused of committing. As for the victims of the trafficking ring, their road to recovery had only just begun. While many had been rescued and were receiving care and support, the investigation remained ongoing. The battle to dismantle the entire criminal network and bring all those involved to justice would continue, and the world was watching. The world is awaiting answers, and as the investigation continues, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. This case is not just about the crimes of an individual, but reflects a larger issue: human trafficking and the global fight to end this brutal crime. The story of Rick Harrison, once a beloved television figure, has now taken a dark turn. But perhaps the most tragic aspect is not just the destruction of his reputation, but the irreversible harm done to the lives of hundreds of innocent children. Though painful, the stories of these children are now being heard. The public outrage, legal proceedings, and ongoing investigation are all part of an effort to ensure that these children will not be forgotten and that justice will ultimately prevail. As the shockwaves from the discovery of the secret basement under Rick Harrison's pawn shop begin to settle, the world shifts its focus to what will happen next, the legal battle that will determine his fate. Even though the public is still reeling from the horrific details uncovered by the FBI investigation, the media and law enforcement agencies have turned their full attention to the trial. The case against Rick Harrison is not only about determining his personal future, but could also set a precedent for how authorities handle cases involving human trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime in the future. In the weeks following the revelation of the truth, Harrison's legal team has been working at full capacity, trying to construct a defense strategy that could withstand the massive amount of evidence collected by the FBI. From the moment of his arrest, Harrison has faced serious charges. He is accused of being an accomplice in an international human trafficking ring, where children were moved from one region to another to be exploited and sold. The charges go beyond human trafficking. Harrison is also accused of money laundering, conspiracy, and complicity in the sale of stolen antiques. These are not light charges. If convicted, he could face decades in prison, lose his entire fortune, and carry a permanent stain on his reputation. The legal strategy his team has chosen combines denial with an attempt to reduce his responsibility. They firmly argue that Harrison had no knowledge of the full scale of the human trafficking operation running beneath his pawn shop. According to his defense lawyers, Harrison had no idea about the underground prison and was simply a pawn, inadvertently used in a much larger criminal conspiracy. The core of the defense's argument is the claim that Harrison's involvement in the trafficking organization was purely accidental. They argue that he was simply running his business like anyone else, completely unaware that his shop had become a hub for criminal activities. To support this argument, Harrison's lawyers emphasize that there is no direct evidence linking him to the most egregious acts of the trafficking ring. They assert that the financial transactions discovered by the FBI are just part of the normal operations of a pawn shop, and that the sale of stolen goods could happen without his prior consent or knowledge. However, the prosecution remains unconvinced by these arguments. They present a strong case, showing that Harrison knowingly facilitated the movement and sale of children through his pawn shop. The prosecution highlights a series of financial and communication records gathered by the FBI, including payments Harrison received from individuals directly linked to the trafficking network. These transactions were traced back to the sale of stolen antiques and other illegal activities, with the prosecution asserting that Harrison used his pawn shop to launder money for criminal organizations. The evidence against Harrison is damning. In addition to the financial records, the FBI also uncovered a large amount of digital evidence, emails, phone call data, and surveillance footage, showing that Harrison had direct contact with individuals involved in organized crime and had assisted in the trafficking of antiques, which were later used to fund the human trafficking ring. The prosecution also presented testimony from several victims rescued from the underground prison, as well as statements from former members of the trafficking network. These witnesses testify that Harrison was fully aware of what was happening and even played an active role in moving children through his shop. Despite being backed into a corner by the overwhelming evidence, Harrison continues to assert his innocence. He maintains that he had no knowledge of the full scale of the trafficking operation and is just another victim in a complex criminal conspiracy. His legal team argues that Harrison is a respected businessman who built his empire through legitimate means, and that he was deceived by those around him. They also claim that the government has abused its power by charging him with such serious crimes, and that the evidence is insufficient to support the trafficking and money laundering charges. As the trial approaches, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensifies. The public is divided on the issue. Some believe Harrison is a victim of circumstances, simply a pawn in a larger scheme that he had no idea about. Others are outraged at the idea that someone who had been in the public eye for so long could be involved in such heinous crimes. The trial has become a phenomenon, with reporters camping outside the courthouse waiting for the latest developments. The impact of the trial extends beyond Harrison's personal life, with broader implications for the pawnshop industry as a whole. The scandal has exposed serious flaws in how pawnshops are regulated, leading to calls for stricter oversight of the industry. Lawmakers have pushed for stronger laws to prevent businesses like Harrison's pawn shop from becoming a cover for criminal activities. Many are questioning whether the pawn industry, which deals with large amounts of cash and valuable goods, is adequately monitored. From Pawn Stars to Killer, the shocking transformation of Rick Harrison. The world knew him as Rick Harrison, the sharp, quick-witted, and approachable father figure of Pawn Stars, the hit reality TV show that had millions of viewers worldwide for many years. Harrison built an empire based on a simple concept: buying and selling antiques, with each transaction carrying a promise of fascinating historical stories and unbelievable bargains. With his signature flannel shirt, glasses, and laid-back attitude, he was someone the public trusted. He was the everyman in a world full of stars, people who seemed to live in a different universe. The public loved him because he was down to earth. But behind that charming smile and the savvy business decisions, there was another side to Rick Harrison that no one could have predicted. A dark side so severe that it would ultimately destroy everything he had built. If you had asked anyone 10 years ago, they would have told you that Rick Harrison was the epitome of success, the embodiment of the American dream, a man who worked hard, climbed the ladder, and eventually reached the top. Pawn Stars was the pinnacle of his career. It was the show that turned his small pawn shop in Las Vegas into a global phenomenon. He was a TV star, a businessman, and for a long time, the face of reality TV. He had it all: wealth, fame, and a seemingly untouchable reputation. But as we now know, that reputation was nothing but an illusion carefully constructed. Behind the public persona of this reality TV star was a web of lies, crimes, and deceit. No one could have predicted the shocking truth that would later emerge, shattering the facade of Rick Harrison's life. What happens when a man who has built his entire life on honesty and transparency in the public eye is finally caught hiding the darkest of secrets? In this story, we will dive into the incredible rise and shocking fall of Rick Harrison. We will explore how his rapid rise to fame was not only driven by smart business deals and a love for history, but was also built on a foundation of manipulation, deception, and ultimately murder. Yes, you heard that right. Murder. Harrison, who made millions negotiating public deals, is accused of orchestrating the murder of a key witness, someone who had the potential to expose the truth behind Harrison's illegal transactions. This was not a simple business conflict or personal feud. This was about protecting the empire he had spent years building. Anyone who threatened to bring it all down had to be silenced. And allegedly, Harrison went to extreme lengths to ensure his criminal past would never be uncovered. But that's not all. In a confession at trial that would leave the world stunned, Harrison admitted to something even more terrifying: a woman bought for $100. This chilling statement raised many questions about the man who seemingly had everything under control. What kind of man hides such dark secrets beneath the facade of a family man, a star beloved by millions? As the truth began to emerge, the public, who had once adored Rick Harrison, was forced to face a shocking reality. The man they trusted had been concealing a twisted and dark past. The more the investigation unraveled, the more discoveries were made. Harrison was not just a businessman. He was a man so desperate to protect his empire that he crossed boundaries most could never imagine. He had created a fabricated story, a narrative that became the foundation of his fame and fortune. But all the while, he had been involved in transactions that could take him to a much darker place than anyone could have imagined. This story isn't just about a man who built a pawn shop empire. It's about how power, fame, and money can corrupt even the most seemingly innocent lives. It's the tale of how a man could win the trust of millions on national television, but, in secret, betray everything those people thought they knew about him. In the upcoming chapters, we will dive into Rick Harrison's rise, the shocking details surrounding his alleged involvement in the murder, and the confession that ultimately led to his world collapsing. We will explore how he manipulated the system, hid his wrongdoings, and used his reality TV fame to shield himself from the consequences of his actions. This isn't just the downfall of Rick Harrison. It's the story of how his empire, once a seemingly perfect facade, was built on lies. And when the truth was finally exposed, it was darker than anyone could have imagined. Through court documents, insider interviews, and a deep dive into the timeline of events, we will piece together this shocking story of Rick Harrison's transformation from a beloved TV star to a criminal mastermind. So join us as we reveal the untold story behind the pawn shop empire and the man who had it all, until it all came crashing down.